I want to introduce you to James Thompson. Some of you may know him as the crazed maniac who would repeatedly feature on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, furiously pounding his head and chest before being dismantled by a heavyweight counterpart. I personally first encountered him through these platforms and always perceived him to be some sort of brave bodybuilder who had made the rare transition into the fighting and MMA world. It has been well documented that the strength and power associated with bodybuilding doesn't really translate well into fighting, as evidenced by viral videos of bodybuilders attempting to take on boxers and MMA fighters. They simply look stiff, lack the fast twitch muscle fibers needed, and appear to gas out at a far quicker rate due to the excessive muscle. Well, a look into Thompson's career is perhaps the greatest microcosm of the benefits and limitations of having a muscle-bound frame in combat situations, and ultimately it exposes the bitter reality of why bodybuilders turned fighters rarely make it to the summit of the fighting world.
So quiet now.
James Thompson was born in England on the 16th of December 1978 in Rochdale, Greater Manchester. In his teenage years, he began to play rugby league and was considered to be a talented prospect, even having the option to pursue it professionally. Nevertheless, he opted to become a debt collector instead, likely due to his imposing figure, while simultaneously working as a nightclub bouncer and doorman. He became obsessed with building muscle and competed as an amateur bodybuilder in his late teens. Little has been published online regarding Thompson's bodybuilding career, but it's likely he competed in amateur competitions around the Manchester region between the mid to late 1990s. There were telltale signs of this former endeavour when examining footage of Thompson in his very early fighting career. His debut took place on January the 25th, 2003, where we were introduced to this mass monster who entirely subverted the typical physique of a heavyweight fighter. The majority of fighters tend to concentrate on building functional strength and being more explosive in their movements in order to increase their speed and overall endurance. Their training may often consist of using weight and balance training, grappling and striking, as well as doing traditional cardio forms. Thompson's physique seemed to match that of an individual that focused primarily on increasing their muscle size, with it contradicting the leaner bodies associated with boxers and martial artists. Granted, he did compete in the heavyweight division, in which fighters tend to be larger, but his cumbersome movements and lack of endurance in the latter stages of fights were obvious signs of a frame holding an unwieldy amount of mass. Thompson's debut ended with a victory as he beat Will Elworthy into submission with a forearm choke. He then proceeded to win his next 4 bouts, including a notable TKO of Mark Goddard and the submission of Aaron Marcer in a European super fight. But on June the 20th, 2004, the Colossus suffered his first loss at the hands of Tengiz Tedoradze after his corner threw in the towel. He returned to the ring with a unanimous decision victory over Dan Severn in September 2004. Then, on October the 31st, 2004, Thompson competed in his first fight overseas. The fight took place in Saitama, Japan, and featured the formidable Russian mixed martial artist Alexander Emelianenko. To the unsuspecting viewer, Thompson appeared to have the upper hand in this contest, boasting a far more impressive physique and a respectable record. Emelianenko, on the other hand, stood in the ring as though he had just woken up, with an average build and little muscle to show off. As was normally the case, Thompson came flying out of the traps in his typical gong and dash mode, initially stunning the Russian. Yet, he was quickly overwhelmed by the speed and power of Emelianenko's onslaught of punches. The bout lasted 12 seconds in total. Although Thompson landed some sizable blows to Emelianenko's face, the deceptive power of the dad bod was simply too much. Thompson would go on to have a mixed career in MMA, with notable victories against Henry Miller, Mariusz Pudzianowski and Bob Sapp. He also had his fair share of crushing losses against well-known opponents, such as Kimbo Slice, in which his ear literally exploded, Eric Esch, otherwise known as Butterbean, where he was TKO'd, and Alistair Overeem. He ended his career on December the 15th, 2017 with a loss at Bellator 191 against Philip de Vries by a guillotine choke. At that point, he had 20 wins, 16 losses and 1 no contest. But there are some untold truths about this journey, some dark elements that always threaten to rear their ugly heads.
And then I went and gambled it. I was in a casino. And that was, I was talking, oh no, I'm in control and that. And then I gambled it. And then I had to go back to my missus, oh yeah, no, I won, oh great, how much you in, 1,000? Oh, right, yeah, great. Well, it's not, I haven't got it. Oh, right, what happened? And I just thought, oh.
Throughout the London Real interview, James speaks about how he would frequently put bets on himself before his fights. Then, with any of the proceeds he received, he would go straight to the poker table and gamble it all away. The addiction to gambling became particularly bad after his fight with Kimbo Slice, which inevitably contributed to bouts of depression. He attended a hypnotist who used the disruption technique in order to allow him to break the routine of gambling. Thompson has also stated that since the birth of his 2 children, he's been much better prepared to handle this addiction and focus on more positive endeavours. Now, I previously alluded to Thompson's retirement, suggesting it was a clear-cut decision in the wake of a defeat to Phil de Vries. In fact, his decision to retire was not entirely down to Thompson himself. On the 29th of December 2017, the heavyweight was suspended for 1 year by the Bellator organisers as he tested positive for steroid usage. His failure of an in-competition drug test conducted by regulators showed traces of the steroid drostanolone, and the Colossus was consequently fined $2,000 as well as being ordered to provide a clean drug test in order to be relicensed. Drostanolone is actually a favourite drug amongst MMA fighters thanks to its highly androgenic properties and the fact it allows for tremendous strength without sacrificing other properties. As the sample was taken following the fight, it shows that he or his handlers had underestimated the half-life and the duration of time that the steroid metabolites would still be found in his body. This may suggest that he had taken PEDs on other occasions, or maybe he simply felt that he was past his peak and needed an added boost, but only Thompson and his team fully know the extent of this. Ultimately, James Thompson is an enigma, as his fighting career effectively supports both sides of the argument regarding whether bodybuilders can actually fight. On the one hand, Thompson showed that having this excessive muscle can indeed have a devastating effect in the cage, as he would utilise the technique of rushing at his opponent from the outset to pretty good effect. Heck, even Alexander Emelianenko was caught unaware by his power. But on the other hand, his losses, particularly the later rounds in those defeats, underline the benefits of having a more lean physique that is packed with fast twitch muscle fibres and conditioned for endurance. There are an abundance of clips in which the Colossus is out on his feet, throwing random and slow punches at his opponent, which appear entirely ineffective. Thompson is perhaps one of the best symbols of what a muscle-bound bodybuilder would look like in the ring, and I have to commend this man's bravery. Not only did he show this in facing off against formidable opponents like Kimbo Slice and Overeem, but his admittance of personal gambling problems and mental health issues in various interviews has almost certainly helped people in similar circumstances. This absolute unit of a human also goes through personal battles and hardships, which can encourage others to continue to push on and overcome their demons. Thank you for watching this video, guys. I really appreciate it. If you've made it this far, then feel free to leave a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps out the channel. And also, all songs on this video were actually composed by my dad on Spotify, Richard George Marsland. So if you enjoy the music, then look it up, and he would be very happy with that. Cheers.